I have thoughts about this show. I have some thoughts about this show.
Well, like a phoenix from the ashes, the dads of Dagobah are back. There's a new Star Wars show out. I guess there's new episodes of the dads of Dagobah.
Well, qualifying a new live-action Star Wars show is out.
Oh yeah,
we didn't even talk about Bad Batch Season 3, which I still haven't watched.
I didn't watch any of it, unfortunately.
We haven't talked about Tales of the Empire, which
I also didn't watch that. I think I watched one episode of that on Star Wars Day.
And we didn't talk about Young Jedi, Tales of Young Jedi, whatever that little cartoony show is.
I just feel like we need to have a retreat. We need to have a Dads of Dagobah strategy retreat on what the identity of this show is going to be.
Well, I think we already know what it is. Live action Star Wars shows a week late. Anyway, we've got 3 episodes under our belt for the Acolyte. And our goal today is to be succinct. So I'm guessing 18 minutes is our target here. We're already at 2. So here we go. Want to do word of the week?
Sure. Mine's technically 2 words, but I think one of the most relatable things about this show, we definitely saw it on display in episode 3, and that is homicidal twin. I think all of us have a twin that has tried to kill us at least once in our life, and so I really related to that part of the show and thought that was really believable that an innocent child would try to murder their twin. But it's fine. I love when Star Wars makes their characters do things that are completely outside of the norm of a rational human interaction. Like your nephew having a bad dream and deciding that you're going to murder them because you think that they might be evil in the future.
Mm.
Or murdering your twin sister because she's decided she doesn't want to be a hostage kidnapped child by a group of Night Sisters.
Are we already starting with our Last Jedi bashing? Because Luke stopped himself, okay?
Hey, Joseph, actually, I'm gonna stop you right there, Joseph. I'm gonna stop you right there. No. I'm gonna stop you right there. We need to be succinct. Please keep it on topic. Thank you.
My word of the week is child abduction. Okay. Can we just talk real quick about the Jedi and the bold-faced lie they're telling these people? We don't take children. And then literally 30 seconds later, they're like, we have a right to test them and take them from you. And I don't know if it's a function of just the writing of this show, just being like that whole scene where the Jedi and the witches talk. I was so confused. They're constantly contradicting themselves in almost the same breath. And I'm like, is this a comedy? What's going on here right now?
I mean, what is the difference between the Jedi doing this and the Stormtrooper program in the Rise of Skywalker abducting children to enlist them in the Stormtrooper legions?
If a child doesn't want to go to the Jedi, do the Jedi say, okay, you don't have to?
I don't know. I don't know if the Jedi feel like we cannot allow Force-sensitive children to grow up and develop their skills outside of the stewardship of the Jedi, because that would be a threat to the Republic and to the Jedi. I don't know how they handle that. But I do agree that we've built up in Star Wars this lore, of course, through the original trilogy, and even through a lot of the prequels of the Jedi being, the heroes, the good guys, all this kind of stuff. And this part of the Star Wars lore and the Jedi history is definitely questionable of how they take young children away from their families. And at least the Night Sister mother is like trying to tell the child, Osha, like, this is your choice. Fear shouldn't make this choice, all this kind of stuff.
But you should
But
lie.
I'm sorry, as a parent, like, an 8-year-old child should not be making that type of decision
Hmm.
that I want to leave my family and join the Jedi Order.
Well, even younger than 8. I mean,
Yes.
Anakin is told that he's too old to join. So they're much younger than 8.
And Master Soul said that he was tested when he was 4.
Yeah.
I'm not letting anyone come into my house and say, your 4-year-old is gifted. We're going to take them. You'll never see them again. We have a right to do that because they need to become, I don't care what the occupation is. I'm like, no.
I was also confused about the Jedi. The witches are on this planet outside of the Republic, seemingly on purpose. The Jedi say, "Oh, we didn't know this was this was habited." Like, that's a bold-faced lie. We know the Jedi are lying right there. And then they're like, "We don't fall under your jurisdiction, so you have no right to be here." And then, like, I don't know, a minute later, they're like, "You know that the Jedi have the right to come and test these children." And I'm like, the whole point of you hiding these kids is to keep them from the Jedi. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, they got us there. The Jedi do have a right to take them, right? They do. They have that right. I'm like, that they bent over so easily to be like, oh, okay, Jedi, you got it. Like.
It does bring into, I agree with everything you're saying. It does bring into question, Osha clearly also did not want to do the ascension ceremony with the witches, which are these Night Sisters, I'm assuming? Or is this something separate?
I think it's separate.
Okay. I don't, but let me finish my first thought.
Didn't look green, and I think green is, Dathomiri ladies.
Right. So, anyway, but Osha clearly didn't want to do the ascension ceremony, and yet she was kind of being led along the path of, you need to do this.
Do you want to join us? I do.
You're right.
Okay.
And I feel like there's a lot of parallels to that, of just what family you're born into dictates a lot of those types of things in your life. Mm-hmm. It dictates your traditions and your culture and your faith belief system. Like, it heavily influences that. And so, that was an interesting kind of parallel there. But then the Jedi coming in and saying we can rip any child out of their family as long as they test and pass the test of the Force is also strange to me. It's just weird. My one other thing about episode 3, does it cheapen the story at all if we continue to have these immaculate conceptions of creating children through the Force?
It is very strange.
How many times, I mean, this is now within the span of a couple hundred years, it's happened twice now, technically 3 if you count it being twins, that we have the Osha and May and Anakin all created through the Force, through some sort of immaculate conception. I just find it like, why are we doing that again?
Well, they have to. I don't know. It was odd because it seems like they want us to be like, oh, these girls are special. Like, you can show us that they're special in a different way, Yeah. But anyway, let's talk about episodes 1 and 2.
Sure.
Because those came out last week, and I'll just give my thoughts on them. I thought it started off very strong. The fight scene in the bar was very cool. I was very much on board, and very much similar to Ahsoka. The times when there's talking and times when there's exposition, I'm just like, what is going on right now? I cannot follow what's happening. This seems kind of clunky. And it's just like, okay, can we go back to the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon thing? Because that was cool. And I know it's like, oh, wow, you don't really understand Star Wars. But I feel like Andor was a show where it was like, oh, this is interesting. This is very. I'm totally into this story. And there wasn't a ton of action at the beginning of Andor, but this one I'm like, everyone just seems. Anyway, what do you think about those first 2 episodes?
I agree. I felt like I was pleasantly not. I guess just to say pleasantly surprised. I had been kind of excited for the Acolyte since it was announced a couple years ago. I felt like it was an interesting premise that it was outside of the Skywalker saga timeline, and I thought, okay, cool. I agree with you. I felt like, unfortunately, the more we get these live action shows, it feels like a TV show, and I want it to feel like a movie, even though it's a TV show. And that might sound weird. I understand it is a TV show, and I'm saying it feels like a TV show, but for some reason, I want it to feel epic in the way like Andor did. Andor felt like it was a higher quality than just like a run-of-the-mill TV show.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Acolyte has a lot of good things going for it right now. It certainly has set up things in the plot and part of the mystery that I'm intrigued by. Like, I want to find out some of these answers. I'm a little bit guarded because we've had Star Wars live action shows in the past that have built through the first couple episodes some mystery and some questions that never get answered or that they completely pivot away from. You know, cough, cough, Book of Boba Fett with the Hutts. Cough,
Hey,
cough.
I'm still waiting about those Hutts. That something cool is about to happen with them, right?
Seriously. So in that sense, like, I honestly wasn't expecting this episode 3, to happen so soon, because I thought, oh, this mystery of the sisters and what happened between them, like, that's going to be this mystery through the whole show. And then episode 3 was like this 45-minute flashback of, oh, that's what happened. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it would be much more ambiguous of like what actually happened and were the Jedi at fault, or was May at fault, or was Osha? And I'm like, oh, so they showed, okay, May started the fire like the Jedi said. So what in episode 2 was the guy doing the meditation thing that killed himself with the poison? Why was he feeling so guilty?
I think there is still more that we don't know. Like, why did all those witches die? All she did was set the thing on fire. I don't think she killed all her mothers.
Got it.
I think the Jedi did something.
Huh. Okay.
But I mean, that's just how I'm reading the scene.
Yeah. Well,
Because
even
you're right.
still, I mean, I think Osha has some beef with May. Osha saw May, I'm gonna literally kill you to stop you from going.
Yeah.
That's a little crazy, a little messed up.
One thing that I'm very excited for is what took place on what I believe is Octo. Is that where the Sith was? The Acolyte?
Oh yeah.
that
I don't
planet
know if it was
where they
Octo,
were.
but it looked like a island water planet.
His line about this is, you can't kill the Jedi. You have to kill a Jedi without a weapon. You know, and it's kind of like setting up the downfall. You know, ultimately this is leading into the downfall of the whole Jedi Order in episode 2 and 3, right? Or I guess episode 3 of Star Wars, you know, Revenge of the Sith. But I just think, oh, this is really interesting. Like, this whole, there are Sith around, you know, because in episode 1 they say they, you know, what does Kiamundi say? He's like, they haven't been around in a millennium or something. But it's like, that you know of, right? They've been operating for a while, and hopefully, you know, Darth Plagueis or whoever, Darth Bane maybe, or all those players from Knights of the Old Republic and stuff, they can have kind of a place to fit in now in the story. So that's what I'm excited about.
I'm curious though if they're going to, like, is it canonized that High Republic time frame that the Sith are still operating under the rule of 2, or is it like they have? Because I know an Acolyte is not a full-blown Sith, and there's only ever 2 Sith Lords in the rule of 2, a Master and an Apprentice. But then underneath them, there are many Acolytes, or I don't really know.
I don't know.
I don't know what direction Star Wars is going to go in terms of the canon, because I think in Legends with the Darth Bane books and stuff, it was rule of two. There were only two of them.
What about Exegol? How does that fit in? Isn't that a whole planet full of Siths?
You know, that's a great question. Maybe the Acolyte will take us to Exegol.
Oh, there we go. You know, they did kind of retcon the Rey thing in Exegol, where I am all the Jedi, and she uses both lightsabers. Like, the witches were like, oh, the power of two combined can kind of stand up to our mom. So never mind.
Well,
The thread.
definitely.
Is that what they call the Force? The thread?
Yeah, the thread. I definitely want to see more of why did Osha drop out of the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
I can't stand Yord.
Oh, I can't stand him either.
I think he's supposed to be unlikable. Like, I think they're writing him to be like, he's like this rule follower that is letter of the law, doesn't understand the actual cause of the Jedi. He's just like no tolerance for anything that deviates from what he thinks the expectation is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't like him.
Where would you put these 3 episodes on a scale of 1 to 10? Where would you put them right now?
All combined or each episode?
We'll go through each episode.
Episode 1, remind me of where that stopped versus where episode 2 started.
Episode 1, they get her off the Trade Federation ship, maybe, and they get her to Coruscant, or maybe she crashed lands on that ice planet.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's where that ends.
I would say episode 1 for me was like, so it's the bar scene, it's the finding out, it's Yord going into the ship and arresting her. 6.5 out of 10.
And episode 2 was them on that planet. What planet was that? I have it written down here somewhere. Karnak?
I liked episode 2 more, because I liked seeing Sol with his hand-to-hand combat with May.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the May's contact, who's from The Good Place. That guy, Jason from The Good Place.
He's the Sith, right?
You think he's the masked guy?
Oh, maybe not.
I don't think so. I think he's just like a go-between guy. We found out that, you know, they were twins. You know, a lot more happened in episode 2 to kind of unravel this mystery. I would give episode 2 like a 7.5.
What about today's episode 3?
I don't like to be a negative Nelly over here.
We've got a Star Wars podcast. We're not being negative.
I think I liked it the least. I wasn't a fan of the dedicating an entire episode to the flashback.
Yeah. Kind of Book of Boba Fett-y of him, wasn't it?
I felt like it halted the progress of episode 1 2. I mean, I just had to ask you, I'm like, what happened to episode 1 and 2? I forgot, because I've been living 16 years in the past for the last 45 minutes. I'm going to give episode 3 a 6, a 5.5.
Wow. I'm going episode 1 was a 7.5. Okay. Episode 2 was a 6.
Oh, really? Okay.
Today's was like a 4.
Okay. Yeah, you liked episode 1 the best then.
I did. Touch a Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
And it's all downhill from there. Do we know how many episodes this is going to be?
I don't. By the way, my picture today is what fire looks like in space.
Oh, yeah. I know a lot of people were upset about that.
Which, according to George Lucas,
I don't care about stuff like that.
I don't care either.
How many explosions have we seen across all the Star Wars movies in space? And Leia McGonagalling herself, Mary Poppins style, through space. Mine is obviously Master Sol conducting a Jedi test. That's what my picture is.
8 episodes. There will be 8 episodes.
Okay. Well, I think I'm still, obviously, I don't think it's a failure of a show.
No,
I don't
no,
think
no, 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 no.
it's certainly not the worst live action Star Wars show we've gotten to date. I'm excited to continue to see what is going to happen. I'm mostly still, I think the hook for me right now is trying to get down to the truth of why does May hate the Jedi so much that she wants to eliminate those 4 specifically? Is this some sort of initiation into the Sith? Is this a personal vendetta? What's her motivation to want to kill these Jedi? I want to see Kel Naka actually fight with his lightsaber.
Yeah. I want to see a Wookiee fight.
That's right. I'm excited for the next few episodes to see how this show continues to build on itself.
Yeah. Let me just as a reminder, Andor was kind of every 3 episodes is its own kind of arc, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like at the end of episode 3 of Andor, I was like, oh, this is okay. What more do we have to show for this? And very different than how I'm feeling after this show, after episode 3, where I'm like, okay, this is going to get better, right? I don't think, I see the discourse about this Star Wars show, and I feel like the fact that it's, has a lot more, I don't even want to get into it. People of color, written by a woman, has a lot more women in it. That's what the discourse is, right? And I'm just like, I don't care about any of that stuff. I just want a good show, right? So I don't think we're not those types of Star Wars fans where we're like, oh my gosh, they're so politically correct, right?
Yeah, and all of those things that you just mentioned, I feel like are not having any impact on the show in a negative way. It's not like you can really tell that this is the acting is good.
So
Yeah. So I don't feel like that's impacting my experience with the show in any way. But
and with that, we're going to wrap up this episode. I don't know where we're sitting at 25 minutes or so. Well, we certainly beat my 18 minutes.
I mean, if you think about, we're trying to hit that 18 minutes for a single episode review. We just did 3 in 25.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So let's cut ourselves a little slack. But you know what time it is, Joseph? It's time to get back to the Bacta.
Back to the Bacta. We still need to make shirts. We need to get someone to make us shirts that say back to the Bacta.
Back to the Bacta and hibernate for one more week and come back with a vengeance with a review of episode 4 of The Acolyte. That's what
Wasn't there a fight? Hold on. Wasn't there a fight where Black, what was his name? I almost said Shere Khan. It's not Shere Khan. Black Chrysanthemum? Is that
Chrysanthemum.
No? Yeah.
Chrysanthemum.
Like fought him, drug him out of the Bacta or something?
Yes.
Am I remembering
Opened
that
the
correctly?
Bacta mid-treatment and it spilled all out and he grabbed him and threw him out of it. And then they're grabbing Black Chrysanthemum trying to get him in there. And the next time Boba's in there, there's black hairs floating all around and getting clogged in his throat.
That show was so stupid. Okay. Well, and with that, we have spoken.
This is the way, and we'll see you next time on
The Dads
of Dagobah.